Hello, everybody! Live from the Xfinity Mobile Studios. This is the PHLY Eagles podcast presented by Bet365 and Ashley. And we are hours removed from last night's embarrassing, heinous, terrible performance by the Eagles. 34-17, losing to Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo, and the lowly New York Giants. Bo Wulf, E.J. Smith in the middle, Fran Duffy over there, getting ready to show us the snappy snaps. Fran, how are you?
It's been a hell of a morning going through the film from last night and reliving that. So it was I'm ready to break it all down, ready to talk it through.
EJ, how are you? How was your drive home last night?
It was good. Uneventful, which is all you can really ask for. And I'm excited to get through the film. I agree with Fran. It was a little bit of a tough watch. But overall, I am happy to hear that we're calling them snappy snaps today. I can get on board with that.
Agree.
I mean, this is not a full-term commitment. We're going to call them grabby grabs at some point in the show as well. It's just...
We don't have to do that.
You don't. I do. Okay, Fran. The conceit of the show today, a little bit less specifically focused on exactly the film from yesterday, and more about, okay, let's pick 5 things that are definitely an issue for the team right now, and let's stork rank them from what is the least fixable, the most worrisome, and then work our way towards what is the most fixable and the least worrisome. And so, where do we begin? What is the biggest issue for this team at 4-2 that, boy, I'm not so sure that they can get this fixed?
Simply put, to quote A.J. Brown, passing. I think that, and whether you want to talk about the execution at the quarterback position, if you want to talk about the play calling and the game planning and the design, to me, it's all intertangled. And I know that there are a lot of people that want to point to Kevin Patullo, but to me, again, I don't think it's that simple. It wasn't that simple last year when it was Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator and we were having these discussions. It wasn't this way 2 years ago when people were having the same conversations about Brian Johnson, and 4 years ago when it was Shane Steichen. I think that we've seen enough versions of this offense now where we could say, there's a certain way that the quarterback wants to play, that the head coach wants to play, and it's going to lead to some inconsistencies, and we're seeing that play out right now over the last few weeks.
Okay, so just to lay this out, we've got the pass rush, we've got just the way that they played on defense yesterday, like the lack of violence and intensity. We've got the offensive line, we've got all the A.J. Brown stuff, we've got the passing game, and for you, the passing game is at the top. BJ, do you agree with that?
I agree. I feel like the thing that makes it daunting as we're going to go through some of this stuff and try and figure out how can they fix it, is what Fran said, that it's multifaceted. It's not just the play calling. It's not just the quarterback play. It's not just the philosophy, the overarching philosophy. There are a lot of different things that have to make strides in order for them to really figure this out. I'm excited to get into some of those things.
And what is so confounding about it all is that, yes, they have Kevin Patullo as a new play caller, but I mean, the entire rest of the offense is carried over. These guys have played together for a while, and yet through 6 games now, Jalen Hurts' EPA per dropback, the worst he's ever had in a season as a starter going back to 2021. The success rate, his lowest as a starter going back to 2021. The sack rate, the highest it's been going back to 2021. Play action rate, also the lowest. It goes back to 2021, and it has been decreasing all the way along. All of these things, both in terms of actual efficiency and some of the things that you would like to see them do, they're all going in the wrong direction. And it does seem to coincide, Fran, with this offense becoming more Jalen Hurts' offense.
Yeah, I mean, EJ, you said it a number of times this offseason, leading into this season. I know that, in previous iterations of this show with your predecessor, there was a lot of the same thing where it was, this offense is going to look the way that Jalen wants it to look. And I think that we have reached a point where, because there are levels to it, right? Where, Jalen Hurts, he's going to have an impact on the passing game in how things look and how things feel in 2022, and he's going to have a feel in 2023 after they lose in the Super Bowl, and certainly last year, and then after you win Super Bowl MVP, you become even maybe a little bit more heavy-handed with how that looks and how that feels and how things are called and how things are structured, what goes into the game plan every single week, how things are sequenced together, what your pre-snap authority is before, before every single play. And so I do think that, this offense is built within the image of the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen even mentioned yesterday, while taking accountability for a lot of the inconsistency in the pass game, that he referenced the autonomy that he has. And, he didn't really elaborate too much about, what that autonomy really, entails. But I do think that you see the evidence in the way that the Eagles, operate in the passing game, that Jalen does have a lot of say, not only, pre-snap, not only in the heat of a game, but really just in the structure of the way that they approach things.
All right, well, let's get into it yesterday, Fran, because I mean, in the first half, really until the final drive, which was another chicken with their heads cut off type situation in a 2-minute drill. Jalen Hurts looked pretty good. It felt like in the first few drives, and once again they collapsed in the second half. So where do you want to start?
Yeah, I think that, the big thing for me, there were a couple of things in the first half. While the numbers look good and they were able to get some chunk gains, there were a few plays where even they were able to get a big play where Jalen just looked a little unsettled and, not always sure of what he was seeing. And that's why I actually want to start with a positive play. Julia, if we can go to Dagger first. This is actually going to be, I believe it was a 23-yard completion to Dallas Goedert in the middle, deep intermediate part of the field and between the hash marks. So an area where a lot of people have pointed to and say, this is an area that Jalen Hurts typically does not access and does not consistently target, on a down-to-down basis. And that's true. I mean, from a volume standpoint, that is an area that he does not always attack. Here on this play, he does. And so, yeah, if we go to Dagger 1, Julia, it's a completion to Dallas Goedert where, again, this is a version of the Dagger concept where you're going to get a deep vertical through route to kind of lift the coverage. That's that first one from the outside receiver from Jahan Dotson. And then you're going to have the deep in cut, the deep dig from Goedert working behind it. So that first route is meant to clear out some space, and then Goedert works into the void. Now, the Eagles dressed this up with some backfield motion here from Devonta Smith. So if you go to the next shot here, Julia, you'll see that Devonta is coming in motion from left to right, and he is going to release at the snap of the ball vertically up the field. Now, I don't know how this is coached in terms of is this going to be an alert for Jalen Hurts? Is this just eye candy? But what we see as we go to the next shot is Jalen is actually looking to his right here on this play. I think that this is live. This is an option here for Jalen on this one, where if no one ran with Devonta is going to release up the field, and he's going to be he's going to be open ideally on a vertical route, but the corner on that side, he squats on it. He sits on it. So he's going to take this away. So Devonta saws the route off. If you go to the next shot, you can see Devonta kind of stops his route. He said, all right, I'm holding the corner here. That throw's not available. Now, Jalen is still looking at it. You can see Devonta has fully stopped his route, which is that he's not going to run directly into the corner's coverage. But Jalen is still kind of looking at it. And you see that Dallas, he is starting to break open. He's made his cut on the deep end cut, and he is working towards the middle of the field. Now, if we go to the next shot, you can see Dallas is about to cross the right hash mark, and you see he kind of opens his arms as if throw me the ball. I'm open. Within timing, within structure, this is where the ball should be here now, right? And I wrote earlier this week after the Sunday's loss to Denver, how the pass game is all about timing and rhythm, and this is on this timing on this drop. The ball should be out to Goedert right now. Now, you can see that Jalen he's cocking his arm back to throw. He is in the process of throwing. So it's not that he's egregiously late on this play, but he's late enough where if the ball's on Dallas now, guys, he probably scores. Yeah. Right? He is so wide open that he probably takes this the rest of the way and he runs this in for a touchdown. Instead, by the time, if we go to the next shot here, Julia, and this is the last one, the ball's on him as he crosses the left hash mark, and then he takes that hit from the DB underneath. So just that beat where Jalen held on to Devonta a little bit too long. And I don't know if, again, is that an alert where you're just supposed to take a peek there? Is that the first read in that progression? He's supposed to go 1 to 2 to 3. I couldn't tell you, but I would just say, like, I've seen that play concept run a bunch of different times, even with that kind of like eye candy in the backfield. The quarterback shouldn't be on that long, especially when, Devonta, like, he sawed that off pretty quickly. He stopped, he turned back. He doesn't think that he's active there, but Jalen is still looking at it. And I think that's just an example of, while that was a positive play, I didn't feel like Jalen was settled and feeling comfortable. And we've said this like throughout, like even when, early on in the season, I was like, yeah, like Jalen's playing clean football. The last 2 weeks, I don't think it has been as clean and as settled and as structured with him whenever he drops back to pass.
So as we're thinking about the different problems, and you have this at the top, we'll get to more of the snappy snaps here, but why do you feel like this is less fixable? To get Jalen to speed up, to process quicker on some of these things, when in fact, if he has more autonomy at the line and he is more in charge of what's going on, why don't you expect that this is something that could improve or is less likely to improve?
Yeah. So here's the way I look at it. The reason why I would have this at the top of our list is because if this were a, like, hey, let's take the straitjacket off, and it was like Jalen wants the offense to change, then I feel like, oh, okay, like, yeah, like, all right, they can have big meetings during this mini bye week and say, like, all right, let's move on. It's not to say that Jalen can't move off of it. I just think that if he and the coaching staff, like, if he and Kevin Patullo, Nick Sirianni, the offensive staff are in lockstep with how the offense should look, and everyone says, yeah, like, this is what we want it to look like, I think there's less likely to be a change if other players feel that way. But you know what I mean? Like, in terms of, like, Jalen and the coaches feel a certain way, and this is what they want the offense to look like. I don't know how likely it is for that to change.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about a miss. And why don't we make this the big takeaway? Presented by Xfinity. The big takeaway, and this was I would say the play that most Eagles fans will remember from this game is the start of the second half, missing a wide open Devonta Smith. What did you see here, Fran?
This is just a bad miss. This one is just one that Jalen absolutely 100% will want to have back. Julia, if you just go to Devonta miss one, this is just a simple vertical route from Devonta Smith. He's on the left sideline here. They're backed up on their own 10-yard line, 11-yard line, and Jalen Hurts is going to drop back, and he's going to have Devonta down the left sideline here, and this is going to be a rhythm throw. Like, he's going to hit the top of his drop. He's not pressured. There's not a defender screaming at his face, like an unblocked look. Like, it's not like Devonta got completely held up by a defender on the back end, or he had to throw like a double move and the timing's off. If you go to the next shot, you can see, like, Jalen hits the top of his drop and he's in rhythm. There's no one around him. Like, this is a clean pocket by NFL standards. Devonta has cleared the defender. I don't know what that corner's looking at, on that side. Everybody else seems like they're playing man-to-man coverage, and it looks like that corner is playing cover 2. So this is a busted coverage by the New York Giants, and Devonta is wide open. And if we go to the last shot, I mean, he's got 7 yards of separation by the time the ball lands. At its best, it was like 10 yards of separation. And Jalen just overthrew him. It was a really bad miss, and we talked about it last night. But Jalen is not his. We've talked in the years past. This has been one of his strengths. This has been one of his superpowers. Has been that not just like deep ball accuracy, but accuracy and ball placement in general. And he was inaccurate on the interception that was nearly taken back for a touchdown by Cardell Flott. That was a bad ball, too far inside. So the accuracy has not been there. And I think that that's one of the other things that we haven't really talked about too much so far through 6 games, is that this offense, this past game, look, I think when you look at all players are flawed, right? No player is perfect. So if you're talking about, what are Jalen Hurts' strengths as a quarterback, I would say, all right, like, well, his ability to create, his athleticism, we can do with the run game, but his obviously the intangibles. And then you get into his accuracy, his ball placement, especially down the field. But if you take that away and you're not accentuating another area of weakness to make up for that, Well, now that makes him a weaker player, right? So if you're never going to be like the strong like post snap or pre snap processor, then you want to make up for that with strong accuracy. And if he's not making up for that with strong accuracy, and you're leaving these kinds of plays on the field, that's when you're going to get these kind of mixed results.
This is what I meant about like there's so many layers to this, because it's like we can have a real, like, we will have a real dialogue about like Kevin Patullo and the predictability of the Eagles offense, and there's a lot there, but there's also just like, this is like the reigning Super Bowl MVP throwing to a receiver that's got almost 10 yards of separation down the field. Like, it's just as cut and dry as like, he can't miss on that throw. This is the second week in a row where like they miss on an explosive play that really would have swung the game. You know, they were trailing by 3 at that point in the game. You know, I think that it's just as simple as like, you know, while all the other stuff is at play here, it's just like these guys are like the talent that we talk about on offense. Like, this is where it should deliver, even if it isn't a perfect scheme.
And listen, you know, guys are allowed to have bad games or bad stretches. I do think that, you know, I'm not worried about Jalen's accuracy.
Sure.
Because we've seen it be very good. It is more of the other stuff that is a concern. But yeah, I mean, it's not good in this game.
Not
I was
great,
actually surprised because I really liked your framing, Fran, that those are uncharacteristic for him, but they haven't been super uncharacteristic for him this season. I was a little bit surprised. I looked at the true media numbers of just his on 20+ yard air yards. It's actually like the EPA per dropback and the success rate are actually higher than they've been this year. So I think that's buoyed by what we saw the first 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
But the last 2 weeks, it has been ugly.
Yeah, and certainly there were some of those misses against the Bucks, you know, with AJ, we're specifically targeting AJ Brown. That, you know, so the last couple of weeks, it's definitely been a little lower than you would like.
All right, that's your big takeaway presented by Xfinity. Time to go to break. We have a little bit more on the passing game, and then we'll get to some of the other issues with this team. Good day, good weekend in Philadelphia sports. Are we ready? Okay. Let's talk about our friends at Xfinity because let's see who. Rob Thompson invited me over the other day to watch the Eagles game. He's got a lot of time on his hands now, and he said, "Let's watch some ball, Bo." And I got there, unfortunately. Lagging, buffering, terrible situation for a sports fan. It was like I was fan fished. So I said, "Come on, Topper, come over to my place. This is the perfect fan flex. You get all the action right in your living room, plus Xfinity's best picture and sound with enhanced 4K. So clear, it makes you feel like you're in the stadium. On top of that, real-time notifications and live stats right on your TV. It's the best seat in the house every time. Next game day, make sure that big fan isn't a big fail. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Restrictions apply. Multi-view requires Xfinity 4K capable TV box.
You know, it may be tough to remember these days, but if you guys might remember when the Eagles had a really fearsome pass rush, you might remember in a Super Bowl, a big game where Brandon Graham strip sacked the GOAT for the first Philly Super Bowl ever. Well, now BG is bringing us his Crooked T strip sack pack so we can savor the flavor. And what is the strip sack pack? Well, it's big, it's heavy, and it's juicy. It's the kind of pack that you want to show off. You already know Crooked Tea is 0 sugar and all flavor. The strip sack pack is stuffed with 24 cans and collectible trading cards by Jordan Spector. Some cards are even signed by BG himself. Every case is packing heat. So from the fridge to the tailgate, this is one sack that you're going to be proud to put on display. Grab yours today at a store near you, or you can make sure you catch some over on GoPuff as well. And for our guy BG, we've got to send a shout out to the Philly area bars that are carrying this Crooked Tea. So thank you for showing the love, whether it's the Sport and Social in Allentown, the Garage in Fishtown, City Tap in Logan Square, Wicked Wulf over in Chestnut. Go check them out for game day or a night out and tell them that PHLY Sports sent you.
All right, back in the PHLY Eagles podcast. Hey, EJ, when did you start covering the team?
2019 was my first year on the beat.
2019. Okay, so I'm just, aside from the actual tangible analysis of the film, vibes-wise, how does this feel to you compared to all the other seasons you've covered?
It's a good question. I do think there were a few moments last season where it kind of felt like it could go this way, but at this point, I think it's unavoidable to acknowledge the fact that there is some 2023 vibes around the team. Now, they made it out of that last year, and I think, that there's reason to believe they could do it again. But I mean, especially like we'll get to like AJ later in the show, but especially some of the AJ stuff, like it's unlike anything I've really covered with the Eagles before, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, like, right, I expect it to get a lot worse, but I also expected it to get a lot worse week 6 last year.
Right. Yeah, Nick Sirianni said it. He said that they were 4-2 this time last year as well. Obviously, they got there a little bit differently. I do find it a little bit convenient, like that Nick didn't want to talk about last season at all off season, going into the year. And now that they are facing some adversity, it's like, well, look what we did last year. So I do think that is like maybe a little bit of mixed messaging. But again, I do think like we've seen them make it out of this before. But it doesn't, I don't know. There are warning signs for sure.
All right. You got one more snap for us in the passing game, Fran. Let's break it down.
I do. Let's take a look at a play that it was the first sack that Jalen Hurts took in this football game, a third down play. Julia, if you just go to sack 1, this was a play on third down, and it's got a lot of different layers to this. So on this play here, the Giants come out in a little bit of a unique front where you've got Abdul Carter and Brian Burns lined up to the offensive left. So that's that big circle there. You've got Burns far out wide, Abdul Carter standing up over Brett Toth. And then you've got a linebacker, Bobby Okereke. He's lined up right over Cam Jurgens, right over the center. And you've got the dime defensive back stacked right behind him. So a little bit of a threat of a pressure look there. Very similar to like a double mug front where you're sprinkling some sugar on the A-gaps. That's the same kind of idea there. And then you've got Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau lined up to the right. So as you typically see when you have this kind of A-gap pressure look, you're going to block that up with your center and your running back. So, Julie, if you go to the next shot here, that's how the Eagles decide they're going to block this up. Cam Jurgens is going to slide to his right, and then you're going to have Saquon Barkley. He's going to be responsible if a defender, whether that is Okereke or if it's the dime DB, go into the left A-gap, that's going to be Saquon Barkley's responsibility. So Cam Jurgens is sliding to the right in this situation, and then you're going to have man-to-man protection. I talk about breaking down protection schemes. If the center is sliding one way, that is the direction of the zone. That's zone blocking in that direction. So since Cam is sliding to his right, it is zone blocking that way, and that means it is straight man-to-man on the left side. So if it's man-to-man, that means Toth and Jordan Mailata have the two pass rushers there, and Burns and Carter in man-to-man protection. So, Julie, if you go to the next shot here, one of the things that is a concern, number one, if you've got man-to-man protection on that side, if you've got two pass rushers, especially two guys that are like bendy, explosive, lined up to one side, the threat of stunts and games and twists absolutely exists. Now, me personally, I get why you're sliding Cam Jurgens to the right because you've got Dexter Lawrence over there. You want to give Tyler Steen a little bit of extra help. That said, this is a thing that good defenses do when they try and manipulate protections is say, all right, well, are you going to slide over to the defensive tackle, the guy that might require a double team? If you are, then we are going to play games on the opposite side. The Rams used to do this with Aaron Donald all the time. We're going to put Aaron Donald by himself over to one side, and they're going to run all kinds of funky twists and stunts and games over on the other side, and now you kind of have to pick your poison. Well, now it's 2-on-2 over on the left, and it's basically pick and roll. It's 2-on-2 basketball over on the left-hand side. And Brett Toth and Jordan Mailata struggled picking up stunts last week against the Denver Broncos. The Giants come and they run a stunt over on this side. So if you go to the next shot, Julia, you're going to see that Carter explodes up the field. Brett Toth doesn't do enough to protect his outside shoulder here. And if you are an offensive lineman, the worst possible position that you could be put in, not just for yourself, but for the sanctity of the pocket and for the construction of the pocket there, is to be parallel to the sideline, perpendicular to the line of scrimmage. So Brett Toth is facing the sideline here. Because now he has no base if Carter's going to try and push him, bull rush him. And then also he and Mailata are off level. There's no way that he and Mailata are able to pass this stunt off in this situation. So as soon as Brian Burns is going to loop inside here, Jordan Mailata's got no shot. He's got no chance to be able to mirror this on this play. And so if you go to the next shot, Joel, you can see that Burns gets inside here. He gets inside Mailata, and now he takes Jalen Hurts down for the sack. And I don't love the fact that, now we get into like, what did Jalen Hurts see on this play? Well, before the snap, it looks like single high. And basically, you've got the single high safety, and it looks like it's going to be man-to-man coverage. It's third down. That's been their identity. All right, we anticipate it's going to be single high man-to-man. Julie, if you go to that next shot with the routes, you're going to see that what the Eagles are running here on 3rd and long, I believe it's 3rd and 8. You've got 4 routes because you kept Saquon Barkley to protect. So you've got 4 routes here. Bottom of the screen, because that's where Jalen's going to start. You've got Dallas Goedert just basically running a clear out route. That route's dead. He's not getting that ball. I think he knows he's not getting that ball. And then you've got Devonta Smith, who is running like a hitch route 2 or 3 yards short of the sticks. So that's where Jalen's looking. But like even if he does throw this ball in timing and rhythm, it's an unsuccessful play. You're probably punting on the next drop. Now, it's not man-to-man. It is zone. So Jalen had a bad pre-snap read here. So he starts to his left. That's the man-to-man side. It's zone. So he probably should be working the other side where you've got A.J. Brown and Jahan Dotson working a little bit of like a wrap concept here where you've got the in cut and you've got the stop route underneath. But because Jalen started on the opposite side, doesn't have time because the protection breaks down. So this play had it was like an encapsulation of everything where yes. The scheme, you probably a little bit left a little bit to be desired there. The quarterback didn't execute great. The protection didn't execute great. Just all encompassing here, and they don't get off the field on 3rd down, or they are forced off the field on 3rd down.
It's a great one. You've got a skill issue at left guard. Yep. You've got a bad protection call, a bad read of what they're seeing on defense, and then just bad execution. So
and not a great concept. So
right, exactly, and bad scheming. So on the protection call, are you putting that all on Jalen?
Protection calls that's Jalen's purview. That started last year, and I haven't. I mean, EJ, you tell me. I haven't heard anything that contradicts the otherwise. Right? That's all under Jalen's umbrella at this point.
Yeah, no, that's the sense that's my understanding of it as well. So
that's not great.
No. Yeah, and it's one of those we talked about it last year when he took it over, where it's like, all right, well, if the quarterback knows the protection call, even when he's wrong, he's right, that kind of thing. That's right to an extent, until it's not, right? It's right. It's one of those you probably would have liked the slide to go the opposite way, but then maybe if Dexter Lawrence just overwhelms Tyler Steen, it's like, oh man, you should have been sliding the other way. It's 6 to 1, half dozen of the other, but I think that everything it all snowballed here on this one.
Big picture, this is a very difficult thing for the Eagles to figure out, Fran, because Jalen is the Super Bowl MVP. He has a lot of sway, obviously. Yep. And so he is taking over more of the offense. And if you accept that he's not doing a great job at this right now, the question is
the suspense
is giving him the season moving down the line, or do you take things away to sort of reset? And how sensitive of a thing would that be? It's a very difficult thing for them to figure out.
And honestly, we've had those kind of debates over the last few years. It's like all right, well, you go back to 2021 where Jalen was definitely all right, the post-snap processing, reading the defense and DB rotations, that was a weakness of his game at that point. Dealing with the blitz, that was a weakness of his game at that point. Those are no longer weaknesses. They've gotten better. I would say he's been pretty good against the blitz, and the post-snap, the processing stuff has gotten adequate. I mean, certainly good enough. He just won the Super Bowl and was a Super Bowl MVP last year. It's not that he's a bad player, but you always, I think as a coach, you're always trying to find that balance of putting your players in best position to succeed, letting them find ways to develop and to grow, but not at you don't want to have that cost everybody else, the other 10 people on the field as well. So it's a tough tightrope to walk.
And EJ, I think the other question here is, what is the urgency from an Eagles roster standpoint? I mean, listen, they've got like the youngest defense in football, so the defense is theoretically built to be competitive for a long time, although you're going to have to start paying these guys, and that's going to change the balance of the roster. But on offense, we'll get to how tenable the AJ Jalen thing is, but if you accept that they're going to be here for a while, even, Lane is nearing retirement. The offensive line as a whole is aging, and they don't have guys coming up underneath. Their self-assessment of the lasting nature of how long this roster is going to be Super Bowl caliber probably does force Howie to maybe push some chips in if he feels that way.
Yeah, especially, I mean, on offense, it is just rare to have a collection of players that are that talented playing together. It's a fragile thing. I mean, I saw one of our super chats is actually on, like, if the Eagles should re-sign Dallas Goedert, right? And it's like, well, Dallas Goedert's actually having a pretty good year so far. So, it's not a matter of like, will the Eagles take him back? It's like, are the Eagles going to be able to afford to keep a player like Dallas Goedert in the building if he has suitors elsewhere? And I think that you think about the collection of talent that they have and how hard it is to have that much talent across the board. Yeah, there's urgency there. The investment part of it aside, like, getting your money's worth from your 2-star receivers, just having that group of players, it really is like confounding that they just like make it look so difficult. It's one of the more surprising things of the season.
All right, time to take our second break. We will hear from some sponsors. On the other side, we'll find out between the physicality and run defense, the pass rush, the running game, and the A.J. Brown situation, which of those four is next on Fran's list in terms of the biggest concern for this Eagles team heading forward. It's the perfect time to get your home ready for the season and save big because the holiday steals are here at Ashley. From stunning dining room sets for all your holiday feasts to super cozy sectionals perfect for movie nights, we have everything you need to make this season magical. And the more you shop, the more you save, with up to 25% off store-wide, or take advantage of our special financing with 5 years no interest. Discover great deals in-store and online only at Ashley.
Next, we've got to talk about Cherry Hill Kia. If you're looking for the dealership with the most inventory and super low lease payments in the Philadelphia area, Kia of cherryhill.com is the place to go. Choose from over 450 new Kias, including Tellurides, Sportages, K5s, Carnivals, Seltos, Souls, and more. I've got to tell you, Kia is the hottest automotive brand in the country for a reason. 7 of their models received 2025 Car and Driver Edition Editor's Choice Awards. That's amazing, considering there were more than 450 models tested and only 20 models industry-wide received this award. Combine that with the best warranty in the automotive business, 10 years, 100,000 miles powertrain, and 5 years, 60,000 mile bumper to bumper. Stop in today, tell them PHLY sent you, and receive a $100 restaurant.com gift card just for taking a test drive or completing a trade appraisal. I know people buy Kias elsewhere. I just don't know why. Drive home in your new Kia today, just minutes from all bridges, or available online 24/7 at kiaofcherryhill.com.
Holiday steals are here at Ashley. It's the perfect time to get your home ready for the season and save big, from stunning dining sets for all your holiday feasts to super cozy sectionals perfect for movie nights. We have everything you need to make this season magical. And the more you shop, the more you save, with up to 25% off store-wide, or take advantage of our special financing with 5 years no interest. Discover great deals in-store and online only at Ashley. All right, back on the PHLY Eagles podcast. I gave you the choices. Fran, where's your concern meter? What's next?
We're staying with the pass game, and we're going to go to the A.J. Brown of it all. I think that's next. I think that it hasn't been great. The vibes around it have not been great. That continued last night. I know A.J. Brown put out a tweet this morning.
Yes, we have a bit of an update here, A.J. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the tweet now. So AJ Brown, I think most of our listeners will know, said that he did not recall a meeting between him, Jalen Hurts, and Saquon Barkley. Yeah, it's great. That's a great quote graphic.
That's a great graphic.
So this morning or this afternoon, AJ posted on social media, just to clear this up, that wasn't a meeting or a sit down. I said I don't recall because it got painted like there was tension, and Saquon had to step in. That's not true. I was walking to my car, saw them, and stopped to talk. Nothing more. So I think my read on it last night was that AJ just really didn't want to address it. But
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, like, Fran, you said this a couple weeks ago, and this is like the like end all, or like this is like my this is like what I feel about this moving forward, is like it's not going away. It's like a lengthy conversation, and outside the NovaCare complex isn't going to fix this overnight, because this is becoming a weekly thing where it's like what we hear from AJ after the game, it will linger into the following week, and it just seems like, I don't know, this seemed like an attempt to address it. The meeting that is now not being called a meeting. But yeah, I said it earlier, like I feel like the way that this is going this season is unlike anything I've covered before, in that like I don't know what to really make of how AJ, like where he's at. The slow up against the Broncos was illustrative of like what we've seen a good amount from him this season, where it just feels like something is off there, and it's not just off the field. It's showing it has like tangible effects on the field in a way that is just objectively concerning. You like, I watching the film, it's like he has that sideline catch, and it's like, man, like this guy can just do something, like things on a football field that like you should be able to build an offense around, and it's just not clicking right now. And it's hard to ignore the fact that there's obviously tension behind the scenes and frustration that's been boiling pretty much since the beginning of the season.
Yeah, we talked about it when this first started popping up again. That we didn't think it was going to go away, and I don't think it's going to until like the on-field stuff, like until they show like, okay, we are able to move on, and it's not going to affect the on-field product. Until then, like, I don't know. Bo said it earlier that like I don't think that it's not gonna get better. Like it's good. I'm expecting it to get worse, and that's kind of how I view it sitting here on October 10th.
Just from a football standpoint, from an on-field production standpoint, I mean the numbers are pretty glaring. Even though he's been getting the ball a lot the past couple of weeks, yards per route run, this is where he's been elite the last. His entire career essentially. Last year he was third in the NFL. The year before he was ninth. The year before that, and he was fifth. So he's never been worse than ninth in terms of yards per route run with the Eagles. This year he's 72nd, 1.35 yards per target. He's at 6.1 right now, which is 43rd of 49 qualifying wide receivers. He was first in that last year. And you just think about the usage. We've talked about how Devonta, the skeleton key for the offense, sometimes is putting Devonta in the slot. Yeah. AJ's been in the slot a good bit as well in the past. Not this year. 11% of the time, the lowest by far he's ever had with the Eagles. They are, using him less creatively. Julia, I don't know if you have those heat maps from True Media, which we have, but if you look at just this year, and then you look at last year, I mean, you just see it's the conversation about they're not using the middle of the field, but like the 10 to 25 yards downfield in the middle of the field where he has gotten balls in the past, nothing at all this year. It is all concentrated on just the sidelines down the field and like some slants 6 yards down the field. And so I think the AJ frustrations go a little bit beyond just what's going on the field, but what's going on the field, you can understand his frustrations.
And and that's kind of what I was hinting at, was like, all right, if I think that he'd be okay if like the pass game was healthy, if the offense was healthy and everything looked good and felt good, and it was like, all right, we're moving on. But I think the fact that the offense is very much hit or miss for the majority of games, like for long stretches of games, like they can't get anything rolling, that on-field frustration is just compounded by the off-field frustration. And since they don't have the tools to be able to fix it, and they don't have there's not that clear line of communication to be able to get problems solved. That's not getting better. I thought as I was watching this morning, they ran Julia. If you actually can you pull up? Here's the heat map that Bo was talking about. That's from last year.
Last year, and then you just see the middle of the field there. You just see it disappear.
Yep. And those are targets, Bo, or catches?
Those are targets, or then the routes that he's running.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it is just
staggering. That's it's a full season's worth versus 6.
Of course.
Still, yeah.
It gives you an idea. I was thinking this morning, Julia, if you could pull up the Goddard TD. So this is good. So last night, they went back to that little, the swinging gate, little shovel pass, out of 13 personnel. They ran it a couple weeks ago. It's a compliment off the tush push. And it was cool. And I like what they did yesterday because they came out. It's an empty set. Everybody's spread out. All right, now we're going to go if you go to the next shot, then it's, all right, now we're going to put everybody in motion. It's going to be a late shift, and we're going to shift into that look. And then just before the snap, just one more, Julia, you're going to get Jalen Hurts under center, and then we're going to throw it out there. As I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this, just before the snap, you could, swap Dallas Goedert and A.J. Brown and just, maybe throw the guy a bone. Right? Say all right, to me, okay, maybe Dallas is a little bit sturdier. He's got 20 pounds on AJ, but I don't know. I think AJ Brown could catch a ball at the 4 and power in, right?
Yeah.
And power in for a touchdown. It's little things like that where maybe you find just different ways to kind of get him involved a little bit and just try and see if you can help. That is a way that the coaching staff can kind of interject into this dynamic a little bit as well.
Did you notice that Fran mentioned the tush push on that play? Because a couple weeks ago, somebody had a sweeper entry.
I said from a personnel grouping. That wasn't from the formation.
Yeah, that's fair.
The swooper was very specifically from formation.
Just like the heated exchange, my heart wasn't really in this. Just keeping you guys honest. This is like the half-hearted Eagles motion. It's just to keep you honest.
There's one other play I want to break down here, Fran.
Yeah, this is Julia. This is AJ miss. On this play, I mean, they're gonna try and run an in-breaker to AJ Brown, a quick slant. It's a slant flat concept off of play action. They've run this a bunch over the years, where it's just gonna be a quick play action fake, and Jalen's gonna get the ball out of his hands quickly and put it on AJ Brown in the middle of the field. It's going to be there. AJ's going to be open. If you go to the next shot, their plan is going to be off play action. It's split zone play action, where the split zone is an inside zone run where you're going to have the tight end come across the formation and block the backside defensive end. The problem on this play is that defensive end that you're blocking is Abdul Carter, who is a freak of nature, extremely explosive athlete. And he is going to be blocked by a tight end on the opposite side. And if he's not buying the fact that it's going to be a run, and if he's going to just fly into the backfield, that tight end is extremely unlikely to be able to make that block. And newsflash, he doesn't make that block. He gets a clean hit on Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley at the mesh point. If you go to the next shot here, Julia, you see the Abdul Carter gets right in Jalen Hurts' lap. Jalen shrugs the contact off, does a great job here, stays alive, and he ends up trying to scramble. If you go to the next shot, you can see, all right, Jalen Hurts scrambles. I think he picks up 2 yards on this play, but AJ Brown's wide open, right? It's one of the, and I get I'm not expecting Jalen to deliver this to AJ, but this would have been a catch for AJ Brown. He would have gone for a first down as long as the ball's caught. He's going to be past the sticks, and it could be an explosive play. But I see that there's people in the chat saying oh, Jalen's got to keep his eyes up. No, he just took a huge hit from a defensive end, and now he's going to try and create. I get it. It's honestly he's the timing's off on this play. I got to go make a play. I'm fine with it. To me, this was maybe don't have that be the design of the play action to say all right, we're gonna bring a tight end across the formation. If it's a 275-pound defensive end who runs a 4.8, yeah, all right, we'll sell this. Or if we've been really run heavy today, we're gonna go run, and we're maybe sell that play action a little bit more. On that one, Carter didn't bite it for a second. He's flying to the backfield and he's taking Jalen Hurts out at the mesh point.
EJ, where are you in just how this all plays out?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me if I was relieved that Fran didn't lay that at the feet of Cam Latu for missing the block. I mean, it's hard to say. It's not great. But there were moments last season where it wasn't great. I just, again, keep going back to, like, I just don't. It's like hard to see a path for AJ to, like, get back into being, like, fully engaged into the structure of this passing game. I mean, I don't know. It's just like because of how strange it's been. It's hard for me to, like, come on here and say, like, man, like, I really feel like AJ is just one big game away from this, like, clicking. It feels like something that's going to persist more than that.
Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, we've got 3 big problems left. We've got the running game, the pass rush, and sort of the secondary / physicality going on with defense. I mean, a terrible defensive performance yesterday. We haven't even talked about it yet. Let's find out how high it ranks for the Duff Man.
All right, let's talk about game time. Now that we're in the thick of sports season, we all know the rush to get last-minute tickets to Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers games will be in full force. For the loyal fans looking for affordable seats home or on the road, you could also use Game Time when it comes to queues, login screens, and price jumps. At checkout, fighting for the perfect seats, Game Time has you covered. The Game Time app gives the advantage back to fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in a few taps. It's incredibly easy to use, and the Game Time guarantee means you can trust you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time at the best price. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay. When my family members ask me which Eagles games they should circle over the next few months, I make sure to pull up the Game Time app because of how easy it is to pick out great seats at a great price. We're talking about in-division games for less than $130. Take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today.
Someone was explaining to me that Howie Roseman was talking to his personnel department. He's talking to his pro scouts in particular, and he gets on the horn with a guy, and he's talking to this guy in the staff named Ray. And Ray goes, "Hey, Howie, I got a great idea. You got to trade for Tank Bigsby. Give up all the picks that you can. He's going to be the best kickoff returner in the NFL." That's not the Ray that we're talking about here. That's not the Shady Ray we're talking about. In fact, we're talking about Shady Ray's, the sunglasses company, the best sunglasses company, where you can get 35% off polarized sunglasses with the code PHLY right now. They've got the best customer service policy in the industry. We're talking, if you lose your shades, if you break your shades, you get a free replacement. It's fantastic. Nothing like it. So now you can wear your sunglasses without fear. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. We've teamed with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Speaking of the kickoff return and Shady Ray, I mean, we're not going to talk about special teams, get into it a ton here, but it is true. I mean, it is as bad as your eyes think it is. On kickoff returns, the Eagles have the worst starting field position in the NFL. It's at the 25-yard line, and it's even worse when it's not a touchback. They somehow are further away from number 31 than they are when you include touchbacks. It is a disaster.
How high in the draft would you be willing to take a guy that is his sole thing is kick return?
Oh, kick return. I thought you were going to say like a kickoff special.
I don't think it should be that hard.
Yeah, but there are some guys like it's like, oh, like this guy is a returner. So if you thought like this guy is dynamic and he's a 4th receiver, 5th receiver, but he's got the ability to be like a dynamite returner. How high would you draft that guy, you think? Given what we've seen through 6 games.
I mean, if if there's potential upside for being involved in the offense, it's like we're talking like a Devonta Turpin type who you could use a little bit.
I feel like it's a more fun thought experiment if it's like this guy is only a returner. Like let's say like the most ideal version of like Britton Covey. Like you really don't want to put the ball in his hands on offense. He's maybe is limited in that scope, but a special teams demon.
But the thing is, if your offense is as talented as it's supposed to be, you don't need the best kickoff returner in the NFL. You just need competency. Yeah. Just get me to average.
Yep.
Right. And so I don't think I would be willing to take them that high, in theory. But yeah, like I just don't want to be worst.
I'd say fifth.
You have somebody in mind?
No, not yet. I will though.
Okay. What do you think? Fifth?
You honestly, I mean, the thing is, they've already spent a fifth and a sixth on a guy that makes it tougher to gauge. But I digress.
Okay, all right, Fran. The run defense, the running game on offense, and sort of the rest of the picture on defense, especially after a game in which they were completely out-physicaled yesterday. Where are you going next as the most worrisome?
To me, it would be I think the pass rush is an issue right now, and it's going to continue to be an issue. Jalen Carter, he missed this game with a heel injury. That doesn't take into account like whatever this upper body like shoulder pec deal that he's been dealing with since the summer. Where he is from a percentage standpoint with that injury. But for me, I think that the inability to consistently impact the quarterback without the use of Zach Bond and or Jahad Campbell, that's a concern right now for this defense.
I misunderstood my own question. This is absolutely the next thing. Yeah. Do you see any fix here coming, EJ?
I mean, trade deadline's in a little less than a month. Definitely feels like they're lacking some firepower on the edge, not just pass rush juice, but really early down. It feels like they could use someone to solidify that, especially. I mean, I know Nolan Smith is out, but even when Nolan Smith is back, I think they could use an injection of talent there.
Well, this gets to the thing we were talking about before about the longevity of this roster. They have to have some real serious self-assessments because, would you be willing to give up a second for Trey Hendrickson or whatever it is if you think that this team might just keep going in the wrong direction?
Right.
Yeah, it's a good question.
I don't know.
But I don't know. I think if you look at, again, like the collection of talent they have on this team, it feels like you kind of owe it to the window to make a move like that. Honestly, Bo, I think the chat should be on you. You should be talking to Brandon Graham. Especially early down, it's just like stout at the point of attack, like a little bit of pass rush juice, a little versatility to move inside, some leadership, some crack some skulls. Let's get more physical. I mean, they could use them.
Yeah. I mean, I think Howie would be not doing his due diligence if he wasn't making that phone call.
I would agree.
But I don't know that that's solving it.
Right. I would agree with that.
Okay.
Well, and to me, like the biggest thing, and Julio, let's go to we can probably make this the last one we'll go to. Third down, the next one, third down, number one. The issue that and look, this is a defense that could not get off the field on third down yesterday. The Giants had entirely too much success on third down in this football game. It was a big reason why they were able to put up as many points as they did in this football game. But on this play here on third down, my opinion, my thought is that this is going to be a blitz for one of those exchange pressures, one of those pressures from Zach Bond, where he's going to come from depth, and it's actually going to be just a straight blitz because the four defensive linemen are all blitzing as well. You can see that the Eagles tilt the front where you've got three defensive linemen lined up to our left-hand side. Bond is going to come from the right-hand side, and you've got, I believe that is Zadarius Smith lined up to the far right. Now, what happens before the snap, if you go to the next shot here, is that the Giants send Tyrone Tracy in motion from left to right. And you could see that Bond and Jahad Campbell, they kind of switch this off and they change responsibilities here. So now Campbell becomes the blitzer. Bond has Tracy one-on-one. And so you're going to see on the next shot, now Jahad Campbell's going to come as the blitzer, and he's going to run through that B gap outside the guard between the tackle. The problem here on this play is that I think that Campbell thinks that number 74, the right guard, that he's going to try and block him, and so he stutters his feet here on this play. If you go to the next shot, you can see that he kind of chatters his feet and hesitates a little bit. 74, he actually just did. He's not even looking at Campbell. He had eyes on Zach Bond before the snap, and as soon as he saw Bond run with the running back, now he's got his eyes inside to the defensive tackle. If Campbell just hits this gap at full speed, he probably gets a hit on Jackson Dart, and he's able to impact this throw, and the ball's not delivered. But because he hesitated just a little bit instead of hitting this full bore, well, now Dart's got a little bit extra time. And if we go to the next shot here, Theo Johnson, the tight end, second-year tight end out of Penn State, he just carves up Makuba. It was just poor leverage from Makuba here. It was a solid route from the tight end, and he's able to create separation. He breaks to the outside on a corner route, and he ends up going for a 22-yard completion here on 3rd and long, and the Giants are able to move the sticks. And to me, like that inability to consistently rush the passer, you're bringing those linebackers from depth. You're counting on some of these guys that are. It's not as good of a secondary as it was a year ago, right? Like you've got. We could talk about the cornerback spot, the opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. You didn't have Quinyon for the majority of last night's game. They stayed completely away from Cooper DeJean. In the past game, I think that he got targeted one time down the field in base defense in this game. So they stayed completely away from Cooper DeJean. It was all peppering targets towards Adoree Jackson and Keely Ringo and Makuba. It's going to be an issue. Those young defensive backs or those less skilled defensive backs, if you're not able to complement that with a strong pass rush.
I don't think the answer is yes, but given the state of the pass rush, do you second guess committing to Zach Bond instead of one of the pass rushers who left?
I don't think so. No, Bond's a great player, and I think that when you look at Milton, I mean you weren't going to be able to bring Milton back on the contract that he got. And Sweat, I mean, I don't know. Like you guys tell me. Like I feel like that ship just kind of sailed. Like I don't know. I feel like there was kind of knew like that relationship wasn't going to work past 2024. So I don't know that there is even revisionist history to revisit there.
I think
a more interesting like framing of that would be, if you're going to have such a top-heavy roster, like the top of your roster has to perform that way. Like Zach Bond needs to be able to make the defense right. It's funny. Zach Bond, my wife went on this like really long tangent about the Eagles this morning. She was really worked up, and she doesn't get to she didn't get to talk to me after the game. So she listens to the post-game show. She listens to everything, and she just has like takes that she needs to unload this morning.
We need to get her on.
Get her on the show. Yeah, right.
Honestly, she would love that. So one of the things she said was like that the Eagles offense like just doesn't have enough easy buttons. And I'm sorry, because I just caught myself about to say easy button like with Zach Bond, and I just completely got sidetracked. But if you have such a top,
I was wondering where this was going to come into Zach Bond.
If you have such a top heavy roster, like Zach Bond can't get beat by Jackson Dart on that scramble drill. I think that is maybe the conversation that you can have about like, is the off-ball linebacker position able to impact everything around it enough to justify the investment? But I still think like I got no issue with the process. Like Zach Bond being a difference-making player, I think it made sense to prioritize him.
All right, we got to continue this conversation in overtime. I do wonder if they if they knew they were going to draft Jahad Campbell, which you could never have known, would you have still? But that's an unfortunate thing. I do want to get the Julia segment going. We got to get that baby sold, sponsored, and then we can bring her on. Speaking of sold and sponsored segments, how about Shady Rays? The future is bright. In an episode where we're talking about the bad stuff, the least bad thing, you think there might be a bright future, Fran, for the running game? Is that next for you?
Yeah, the run game. I think that there were, to me, we don't have any shots from this one, and we talked about this in the post game show a little bit afterwards. I think when you're looking at this game in particular, I mean, they came out and they were able to run the ball against a bad run defense.
Yeah.
And look, here are the two bones that I would pick with the run game yesterday. They came out first play of the game, lined up in the pistol, and they ran the version of inside zone where you have Cam Jurgens, kind of folding around the left guard and leading up to the second level, and it goes for 19 yards, longest run of the year. They came back very next drive, same formation, same exact play, and it goes for -2. I quite literally copied and pasted multiple rows of my Excel sheet for my notes. I was like, yep, exactly the same, exactly the same, exactly the same. The outcome was much different. It went for -2. Then the other thing, last year, the last couple of years, we've seen them do this where they have a change up that they do is called like same side runs, right? So if you have the quarterback in the shotgun and the running back to his left side, typically if the running back's to the left, the run is going to be to the right, right? Because the general flow across the quarterback's body, it's going to go over to the opposite side, right? So to counteract, we don't want to be predictable by alignment, so we want to make sure that they keep, one of the things they'll do is all right, it's a longer play, and it's a longer developing play, but it's a same side inside zone. So all right, the quarterback is lined up or is in the shotgun, the running back is to his left. Well, now the quarterback's going to reach all the way across his body it's going to be a run going the opposite way. The longer developing play. The Eagles do this all the time now. They're not as run heavy as they have been, as they were last year. I just feel like it's unnecessary to be so heavy-handed with trying to not be predictable. I don't just line up and play. To me, I think when you look at this group, they were moving the ball well. They ran 3 same side inside zone runs last night. How many runs did Saquon have in the night? It accounted for a third of his carries. There are certain things I think from the run game standpoint that we're just not. It's a little bit different than what we've seen in the past from a schematic standpoint. And then obviously, look, the execution. We could talk. You don't have Landon Dickerson. Jurgens not fully healthy, and you're working in a new right guard. It's the things we've talked about over the last few weeks.
Fran, what do you make of the lack of creativity in the run game? I'm old enough to remember when you were doing film breakdowns about the Eagles running GT counter and all of these different wrinkles in the quarterback inclusive run game and everything else. But sorry, what was that?
Make me sound like I'm 80 years old. Thank you.
No, I'm old enough to remember. It's probably not the right way to phrase it. You're right. I didn't mean to unk you there. But I mean, it just feels like Kellen Moore, when they hired him, it wasn't like he was some oh man, this guy is really committed to the run game. It was actually quite the contrary. But we saw the Eagles really be creative in the run game last year in a way that I just feel like we haven't seen this season. And
it wasn't just last year. I mean, it's been in years prior. I don't know the answer to that. I couldn't tell you. I was just based off what the film is showing. We talked. It was the first 2 games of the year. We didn't see any gap scheme runs. We've barely seen any of the quarterback run game with QB counter read and things like that. We haven't seen a ton of variety from this run game so far this year. I don't know what to make of it.
I do think that this is. I don't understand why this wouldn't be able to get fixed. This one in particular. Saquon looks fine.
Yep. Yeah. Agree.
I don't know. It doesn't. It's not a skill issue. It just feels like an identity issue, right? As you have described, Fran, everything feels so disjointed. Okay, this is going to be our running game drive. Okay, this is going to be our passing game drive. Yes. There's no DNA to it.
To that point, really quick, it's a bad job by me that it took us this long to get to Lane Johnson's comments from last night, because I think that they do hold significant weight. When he was asked about what's wrong with the run game, he said a lot. I don't know if we're predictable, but it seems a lot harder than it needs to be. Maybe moving forward, we start looking for more variety, hitting the perimeter some, doing a little bit more of that. You can game plan all you want, but when you go into a game, and it's about making those adjustments from the sideline. You can game plan, but we have to make adjustments and we have to play better. We're not efficient in that phase. And then he went on to say, in this league, if you become one-dimensional and you're not making guys think or guessing or putting guys in situations, things can happen like that. The last 2 weeks, you know what it is. You know when a pass is coming. You know when a run is coming. It all starts with us collectively as an offense. Moving forward, we have to do a better job of that.
I'm just looking at my notes. Okay, and it's the second quarter. So you had the first few drives, the first 3 drives. All right, and they came out first 4 plays of the game, run, and then you get to the second. There were 2 drives after that. You get to the second quarter. The first drive of the second quarter, they ran 2 plays with Saquon Barkley. They were both same side inside zone run plays. The first one went for 3 yards. The second one went for no yards. And then you get to the next drive, and that was like the 2-minute drill. So they didn't run any plays there. And then they come out from the locker room third quarter, and it's like, okay, they haven't run the ball the last few drives. Like they're gonna run the ball here, and they run the ball and they get stuck. I think to the predictability aspect of it is like you can kind of feel going in like, all right, this is going to be a run game drive, and where again like just the sequencing of plays. And these are the I will say, like, these are the growing pains, that can get fixed and do get fixed, especially when you have a first-time coordinator, you have a first-time play caller. I think there are a lot of people out there that are complaining about Kevin Patullo. I think the 2 areas where you can say, all right, these are the areas of growth here would be this topic and then the play clock stuff. Like that might not be a Patullo thing. That could be that is an operation thing though. Like that is something that has to get cleaned up here moving forward through the rest of the year.
All right, which brings us to the last thing here, Fran, which to me was the most embarrassing part of the game last night. If we're just placing blame on how the game turned out, the worst thing to me was the way that the defense played. Just getting completely out physical. But you have faith that this is the easiest thing for them to fix.
Yeah, because honestly, like when I was going through, I didn't feel like there were certain plays where it was like, oh man, like they kind of got eaten up here, or like they got out schemed on this one, or hey, this was well blocked.
This is also inclusive of just the personnel that they have.
Yeah, I mean, no question. You're missing Jalen Carter, that kind of thing. You're missing Nolan Smith, who was absolutely a tone setter in the run game. But this game, thinking about it, like the run defense wise, after going back through the film this morning, it felt like that 2022 loss in prime time. I forget if it was Thursday. I think it was a Thursday night game, the first loss of the year against Washington, and Brian Robinson, rookie running back at the time, ironically enough. It felt like that one where it was like, man, they can't stop the run. They can't stop the run. They ran out, and it's like, yeah, but it was like 3 yards here, 4 yards there. They didn't really pop any like big ones until very late in the game, and it was very clear, like, all right, like the dam is falling apart here on this one. I felt a little bit better about the run defense after going back through the film this morning than I did going to bed last night.
Okay, but what about not being able to cover Lil Jordan Humphrey?
I mean, that was to me, like that goes back to the pass rush deal where without the pass rush, I think that because the corners are what the corners are. Like I said in the postgame show last night, I think they've got three fourth corners. They've got Quinyon Mitchell, they've got Cooper DeJean, and then they've got 3 fourth corners in the NFL, 4th or 5th corners in the NFL, and Adoree Jackson, Jacorian Bennett, and Keely Ringo. Guys that are going to be volatile for different reasons. I actually agree with you made the point last night, Bo. You thought that it was, or that you were, somewhat impressed with Adoree. Like I actually thought there was not a bad game from Adoree Jackson overall.
I mean that turn down.
Yeah,
tough, man.
Yes, I mean. But that's the thing is that that's like
that's the deal you're making with him.
Yeah, right? It's like being upset about Grant Calcaterra missing a block at the point of attack against the defensive end. Like I don't know, like a zebra's not going to change his stripes kind of deal. Like that is who he is.
There were some Giants reporters in the press box after the game last night that are like, "Oh, we could have told you that Adoree Jackson was terrible," and I was like, I actually think he was probably the better of the 2 outside corners that finished the game for the Eagles, but they also had some jokes about Keely Ringo. So those guys were catching strays in the press box in the wee hours.
Wait, were they rooting? Were the Giants reporters rooting?
I don't think they were rooting. They were just like maybe taking some enjoyment in the state of the Eagles secondary by the end of the game.
I mean, those guys have seen a lot of bad football, so I believe their eyes there.
Some super chats we got to get to here, or just one from Devin. He says, "Is it time to question the fruits of the Sirianni coaching tree? He can't provide scheme. He can't foster inside talent. Can't believe we're here again." What do you think, EJ?
Yeah, I mean, it's really confusing like trend with the Eagles that predates Sirianni. Like these internal offensive coordinator hires just never seem to go very well for some reason. And then it always kind of feels like there's that one Shane Steichen, Frank Reich figure who it's like, man, if they could have just kept that guy in the building. So maybe it's a reflection of like the fact that the Eagles, they're like star coordinators get picked off a lot of the time. But I mean, that's what happens with good teams. So it's a fair observation. I don't have a great answer for why it's been that way, but yeah, the internal hires have just never really seemed to just hit the ground running.
And listen, we talked about it, but this is the test of Sirianni. Can you keep the team together? Can you keep the culture pulling in the same direction when it feels like things are, shaking enough to maybe get you off the tracks?
Yeah, I know that some people have said like he is like the vibes coach. He's like that's his job is to maintain locker room dynamics. I still maintain that like that's a tough job. Like it is a tough job this year balancing some of the things that he's had to balance. So I understand the criticism. Like it is his role to make sure that AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, and Saquon Barkley are in lockstep and don't need to have like hours long powwows that don't necessarily get anywhere. What's that?
I don't recall that.
It's good. But yeah, I think that it is a difficult job that he has to navigate here.
Fran, a super chat from June, who says, on Keely and Adore, at what point do you play Mac McWilliams or Perry Nickerson and move Cooper DeJean to the outside?
Yeah, I think that my guess is if they had faith that Mac McWilliams would give them superior quality right now, that they probably would have been mixing him in more often in games. Obviously, he flashed in camp, but I think that they're still waiting on his development before they feel comfortable making a move like that. I guess we'll see.
I mean, Brandon Johnson is ready now.
Ready for what?
All the smoke.
Have you talked to him in the locker room yet, Bo?
Briefly.
He's very nice.
Oh, very nice guy.
Yeah, maybe
he's always playing that. What's that game called?
The Shadow Box.
Yeah. He's always playing that.
The young guys that really made a comeback. Like all the young guys in the Eagles locker room, they love that game.
Oh, laundry. Laundry's done. Oh, I think this is my first time being on the show when the laundry's done.
Really?
I had no idea
think so. Yeah.
I was a little bit nervous.
Man, that's
There's
great.
a nuclear bomb that's about to go off.
Man, I've been watching the show for
gonna be
years.
another one
I've been
coming
on for 14 months. This is my first time being on when the laundry's done.
There's going to be a second one. There's two.
Oh
Going to
no!
be coming in about 10 seconds.
I thought it was Howie Roseman calling to tell
So
you.
we have until the second buzz to finish the show, and we'll make that the end of the show. So any final thoughts? You got to get them off now.
I like a Mac McWilliams. I'd like to see it.
Okay. What are you doing this weekend?
Me or Fran?
I don't know. Is there any other thoughts just from watching the film today, Fran?
Nothing crazy. I mean, it was a tough film to watch. I mean, offensively, we talked through it. It was a bad loss. It was a bad loss.
EJ, there was a good question. What was in the press box? What was the Kirkering moment like?
Oh, just like complete unrest on the Philadelphia side of the press box. I mean, everybody had the game on something. Oh no! All right,
that'll do it for the PHLY Eagles podcast. Thanks to everybody for watching. Thank you, Fran, for the snappy snaps. Thank you, Julia, for making it happen. We will be back on Monday at 2:00. 2:00 all next week before the Eagles return to the action in Minneapolis next Sunday. Good stuff. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. That'll do it for us today. We'll talk to you Monday. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.